Good evening, everyone, and welcome tonight. This is day number 623, and I tried to promise. I promised you guys that I would do my best to have a proper update tonight. So I hope all is well. I see all of you guys in here. We should be we should be solid tonight. No lip sync. Everything's good. The Embassy Suites and I had a really in-depth conversation after Monday night stream. So we should be good to go. And I'm running a little different way. And they actually opened the restaurant for me where the fastest internet in the building is. And I'm in here alone. So here we go. All is well. Welcome to all of you. Dusaid, Oklahoma friend, Malcolm Bills, good morning to you. Kashayara Naragi, San Francisco, welcome to you, my friend. Skag, out in Australia. King Raccoon, as always. Yes, you were first. Honen Conte, buenos noches. Carl Elwell from Vegas, welcome to you, my friend. Chuck Pinkham out there in San Jose. Pat Shove there in PA. I'm looking over here to the right. I see all of you guys. Mark McLaren, welcome to you. Rick Berry, Slava Ukraina, Gerom Slava. Yeah, I've had to do a lot of translating here. There's quite a few. There's some Ukrainians, Russians, Latvian, Lithuanian, Estonians. Everybody speaking Russian, of course, so we can communicate together. We've had to do some translating for them, so that's been going well. Captain Hamars, welcome to you. So, guys, thank you for being here tonight. I've got a little different platform going on. Welcome to you, Tim Ryder. So, listen, we took it up a notch tonight. I can see all of your stuff. John Little, cheers to you. And where's the hat and where's the shirt? The hat's in the studio at home. So we're going to jump right to it and make sure we're good. So as you can see right here, I want to give you some updates first on what's happening. Good news and not so good news. Tonight, I'm here going to give you the most accurate, up to the moment update direct from inside Ukraine. Title of the program tonight is The Update from Inside Ukraine. So everything I'm going to give you tonight is from inside. Yes, we're going to talk about some outside things. Yes, I saw you guys talking about Donald Trump. We know about Zelensky's invitation. I tried to get that out the other night, and Trump, respectfully declined due to him not being the president. But he doesn't have time to go to Ukraine right now. He's in court, so it's not really possible. And I know there's a lot of speculation as to how support will waver, but folks, don't worry about that right now because we are 1 year away from that. There is no telling what's going to be happening in our world within the next 12 months. So we'll be watching it and we'll see. And as you know, kind of our method, the method to our madness here is we want the confirmation be, we want the confirmation on the most factual basis possible before we share it. So everything tonight I'm going to share with you is accurate, very accurate. And some of it's good and some of it's not. So we're going to start with the good. You're seeing the map of Kherson right here. And I told you guys the other night that Ukraine had established a bankhead on the left bank. So I'm going to give you all the details of that now. It is in the region I'm pointing. I've put 3 arrows there. Those are not the exact locations, but it's down below Kherson. And it would be between Kherson and Berislav, somewhere between the 2 blue arrows on the right. And what I can tell you is Ukraine has some equipment they have been able to cross the river. Now, nothing I'm going to tell you the Russians don't already know because Russia is sending reinforcements, but Ukraine has moved up to 300 soldiers across the bank, and they have established a perimeter of about 2 kilometers of a safety area for them to establish that little base there. The Russians know they're there. They also have a small push near the Antonivka Bridge, but the larger one is about 2 kilometers of ground they have recovered, and about 300 Ukrainian soldiers are in that area, and they've been able to get some equipment over there. As I told you, the Russians are aware, I'm not giving anything that they don't know. and we will see. But that's good news for where we're at on that right now. So that's good news right there. This is horrible news. So we're going to go between good and bad. Rick Berry, I see you there with the Avdiivka comment. Mark McLaren, the world's totally off the rails. You can't predict the next day, never mind a year from now. Exactly. So, guys, I think it was probably 10 days or so ago. And when I try to remember these numbers, there's so much I'm doing every day. Sometimes I may be inaccurate, but it's about 10 days ago that I told you that Avdiivka will fall. That didn't come from me and what I'm reading on the news. That came from our soldiers that sends the information to Zhenya, and Zhenya then gets it to me. We already know Avdiivka is going to fall. The problem with Avdiivka right now is they're close to encircling it. They have really pushed in. If I was able, you can see on the graphic here, if you look at the word Avdiivka there, and I know it's in the Russian language, or actually that's in Ukrainian, but if you were to look on the left side, you see the pushes in from the south and the north. Russia has a chance to encircle pretty significant group of Ukrainian forces in the center of Avdiivka if they don't get out of there. So we're going to get a lot more information on Avdiivka over the next week. But I can tell you right now, Avdiivka, as we already told you 10 days ago or so, it's going to fall. It's the way it is. They need to leave the Sage. You're 100% correct. They need to leave it because they're losing people right now that they should not be losing. So this one's a better, I guess the football analogy would be back up and punt. There's nothing there to hold on to. I can tell you that there are 1,000 Ukrainian civilians still in Avdiivka. And I know the Ukrainian soldiers are doing their best to save them, to get them out. Some of them will not be able to get out. They will be occupied once Russia takes it. And like I said, you guys that are here and you know me, I don't want Russia to take it, but the fact is it's imminent. It's going to happen. So we've got the good news on crossing down in Kherson with Avdiivka. It's not so good of news. Now, moving on to the next thing, I can tell you that over the last 2 weeks, over the last 14 days, Russia has hit. Why are there balloons there? That was interesting. Russia has hit 60 different energy infrastructure locations, whether it be a substation, maybe a thermal plant that's connected to buildings, maybe it's a larger thermal plant, but over 14 days, 60 separate locations have been hit. Over the last 60 days, Russia has fired 800 shaheeds. So even if we could call it 80 days, it's not, it's less, but if we did 80, that's 10 a night. And we've had some nights where there's 2 or 3, and we've had other nights that there's been 30 or 40 shaheeds in the air. But energy is a problem. Everything's holding on right now, but it's definitely a target going into this winter, and Russia's showing it. If I move on to the next one, this is Odessa. I'm sure that some of you guys have heard of that. It was there was a missile strike there. This missile was actually, I'll show you on the next slide what the missile was, but the target that was hit was at the port, and it was actually a cargo ship that, I've got some different images here. So in the top right, the ship was in the port of Odessa. On the left is a couple 3 images there of the actual ship. On the bottom right is a map of Africa, West Africa, and the nation in the red there right behind my camera is Liberia. That's the Liberian flag. This ship was sailing under the Liberian flag. The ship has not been sunk. It's not been Well, it's unable to sail right now, but it's repairable. Um, the 2 weeks should, hopefully that pops away. Um, the problem is one person killed, and it was the pilot. Some call him the captain or the pilot of the ship. Three Filipino workers on the ship were wounded. One Ukrainian dock worker was wounded. And this ship was loaded with ore on the way to China. So 100% not a military target. And what's interesting about this is what I'm going to show you next. This ship was actually hit by an X-31P missile that is launched not from the ground, but from a jet. The missile, the X-31, and this is what is interesting about it. The X-31 missile is designed to go against air defense systems such as the Patriot. Its goal is to target those types of defenses that Ukraine has. But in this situation, that is the missile that was fired from that plane, hitting that civilian cargo ship under the Liberian flag. So it's no bueno, to be honest, because that pilot of that airplane absolutely knew where that missile was going. That was not a random, that was not a deflection. He hit the ship in the port. So once again, we see straight terrorism in play. Now, I saw early in the chat you guys were talking about Germany, and Germany needing to step up. I can tell you that Germany does support Ukraine in a major way. Germany's been a good ally for Ukraine in a major way, and they continue to be. However, it's like we talked about with the HIMARS early in the war, and then we talked about the Patriots, and we've talked about it with different armaments that were coming. This is same thing that's happening with the Taurus missile systems. You know, I grabbed that graphic right there on the bottom left from about 90 days ago, where Ukraine says Germany will provide the Taurus stealth cruise missiles for use against Russian targets. And Ukrainians were all pumped up, excited about it. Then, well, Germany says, well, we're waiting for, the U.S. to put ATACMS there, and then we'll bring the Tauruses in. The ATACMS are there, but Pistorius today, he said, the German Minister of Defense does not see any point in sending the Taurus to Ukraine. I don't think the missiles will change the rules of the game. And he said that today at a defense conference in Berlin. He additionally stated that supplies of arms to Ukraine must take into account the interest of Germany. And that's coming from the war in Ukraine on shaky ground. Nations of Europe realize that they have to also make sure they're taken care of. Additionally, guys, listen here. I'm in Oklahoma City. I'm at a conference with 56 nations represented. 56. I have some friends here from Turkey, and he was deciding if he was going to come on with me tonight and talk about Turkey's position in the war. And we discussed, and he says, Greg, it's just too dangerous for me. It's too dangerous for me to get on that video. However, I will tell you the information. He also taught me how to say Erdogan, that's how I say it, but the correct way in Turkish, it's Erdogan. something like that. And I can't say it perfectly, but it's like that. That's how you say President Erdogan. I asked him, I said, what does Turkey hear about the war in Ukraine right now? He says, Greg, and I've known this guy a long time, zero. There's nothing on our televisions about the war in Ukraine. There's nothing on our televisions at all. Our government, the Erdogan, and he calls it a regime, controls our media just like Russia controls the narrative in Russia and for around the world. He says, I asked him, I said, is Turkey in a precarious position because they're supporting Hamas and at the same time, and there's, and Gaza in Israel at the same time, they're a NATO nation and they're on the fence with Ukraine. And then he says, Greg, this is what he told me. He says, our president just went to Sochi and was hanging out with Putin and called him his very good friend. Listen to me. Erdogan is with Putin. And I really wish I had the ability tonight to put him on here. And he almost did. He says, listen, I just can't. It's too dangerous for me. If anybody saw it and I get back to Turkey, I'm in serious trouble. I can't do it. But please share. Turkey knows nothing about what's going on in Ukraine. Turkey only knows that Israel needs to be destroyed. And Turkey knows that they are in partnership with Vladimir Putin. I said, well, what about NATO? He says, NATO is irrelevant inside Turkey. Irrelevant. It's for the world scene. He goes, we will never be in the EU, and we need to leave NATO. And it was just such an interesting conversation that I had with him there for a moment. Now, that's a little update on Turkey tonight that I think is interesting. How is Turkey still in NATO? I have no idea. Let's go to the next one. I'm sorry the video freezed a little bit, but we're doing much better. So today in Ukraine, you see the picture here. On the left, you have Zaluzhny. On the right, you have Umaran, which is the defense minister. On the bottom left, I have the Russian flag and a fake. On the bottom right, I have a tweet from Andrei Yermak, who is second there, one of the seconds there behind Zelensky. He's the real big dude. So let me tell you today the inside story of Ukraine. Today, Ukraine got into a major spat internally because a politician, a parliament member, a politician who is actually aligned with Peter Poroshenko. And if you're here tonight, you may not know who Peter Poroshenko is, but Poroshenko was the former president of Ukraine. Also in his name, you see Poroshenko, and in the middle is Roshin. And he's actually called the Chocolate King in Ukraine. So for the United States or Europe, you see Hershey's bar. Well, in Ukraine, their Hershey's bar is called Roshin. And that was the president of Ukraine, the former president, his company. So he's trying to stand with Ukraine. There are parts of him that's a decent guy, other parts of him kind of questionable, but some from his group started pushing this rumor today that Zaluzhny was being fired, that Zaluzhny was being dismissed, that Zaluzhny was a failure. And listen, guys, it ran through Ukrainian media like X-Lax runs through a body. It was a major, major deal today inside Ukraine. Now, what happened? First of all, let me tell you, Zaluzhny's not being fired. Number two, on the right top, you see Umarov, the defense minister. He came out and said, not only is Zaluzhny not being fired, but Ukrainians, please, are you this naive? This is straight from the Kremlin. This is straight from the propaganda machine of Russia as they're trying to destroy us from within. They're trying to separate us from within. This is nothing but propaganda, and you guys are falling for it. Then Andrei Yermak, the big guy that's always with Zelensky, comes out and says, basically a bunch of bull, okay, a bunch of baloney, nothing but a liar, okay? So you may hear stuff about this, you may not, but tonight I'm giving you the story from inside Ukraine. This was one of the biggest stories today inside Ukraine. So Zaluzhny, guys, he's not going anywhere. Now, fuel prices are on the rise. There were rumors out today that that Poland and that blockade that the truck drivers have done against the goods coming out of Ukraine. Remember, this is not a blockade on military or humanitarian coming into Ukraine. This is about goods going out of Ukraine. It has nothing to do with supporting Ukraine militarily or with humanitarian aid. Thirdly, there was rumors floating around today that Poland was blocking all fuel trucks from coming into Ukraine. Folks, that is not true. Fuel, humanitarian, military, it's rolling into Ukraine. There's no problems. Now, I'm showing this graphic here because the fuel prices in Ukraine, and specifically diesel, which at least 50% of the vehicles, if not a majority, run on diesel, is going up. I do not know where you guys are at. I know where the Americans are at. I just came down Northwest Expressway here in Oklahoma City, coming back to where I'm at, and I went past the On-Q gas station, and the price of gas was $2.73 a gallon. $2.73, 3 and change for diesel. In my home in Pennsylvania, we're about $3.70 when I left, and 4 some for diesel. Right now in Ukraine, right this minute, a gallon of diesel, and they sell by the liter, but a gallon of diesel costs $6.01 today in Ukraine. Think about that economically. Think about they're destroyed economically, destroyed, and it's $6.01. And I know you guys over there in Europe and Great Britain and Australia and, even parts of states here, California, we pay big money too for gas and fuel, but it's 601 for diesel, and the projection is it's going to go substantially higher going through the winter. Once again, we're going to get into an energy battle. Once again, this is why I like to go physically to Ukraine in the winter. It is the hardest time. Fuel prices rise. You're out of power, and it's when they need the most help, to be quite honest. So we'll be there. We'll be showing you the videos probably from the gas station to show you people don't have this money. It's not real. But it's $6.01 a gallon for diesel. Moving on to the next one tonight. Vladimir Putin today played the game perfectly. Absolutely perfectly. And very interesting. So today, as I told you a couple of slides ago, the propaganda in the media pushed forward the story, flooding Ukraine, that Zaluzhny was being fired. And literally, Ukraine had a pretty major internal battle today politically over this. They fixed it. Defense Minister Yermak, it's fixed. There's no problems. And they said, stop falling for the propaganda. While that was happening, that's an attack against Ukraine. Not only is that attack against Ukraine, but it's an attack against Ukrainian allies, because United States, Germany, Europe, Great Britain, Australia, all these other nations, they're going to look and go, okay, they're so destabilized. How can we continue to support that? They're not destabilized. They're really having some tough times, but they're not destabilized. It's the work of the Russian propaganda. So what did Vova do today? What did old Vova, Vladimir Putin? If I was at home, I don't want to overburden the system. We're making it through pretty good tonight. But Vladimir Putin, while Ukraine was having internal fighting about Zaluzhny, he was visiting cancer hospitals. Not for himself. I know the rumors out there, and he's got some issues. I think he's got some Parkinson's, but he's okay. He was not at a hospital for himself. He spent all day visiting children's hospitals with cancer patients in Moscow. videos. He's down on his knees hugging the children. Of course, there are a couple of things happening here. Number one, we're moving into the election season, which is he's already won. He'll be the president until 2030 or until he wants to quit. That's what dictators do. But it was also a statement that in the media over there, this is what they see. They saw, a little bit of infighting today in Ukraine, and at the same time, Volva, what's he doing? And Volva, the short for Vladimir. It's a little disrespectful what I'm saying. Okay, so Volva was saying, "Hey, look at me. I'm hugging the children. I'm down on my knees with them. I'm loving the children that are suffering these great diseases. And look what those people in Ukraine are doing. They can't even determine who their general is." That's how they do it. They're masters of it. So that's what Volva was doing today. Now I want to tell you a story tonight about Vlad and Vera. On the left, you have Vlad. That would be short for Vladimir. And yes, Vladimir Putin's name is also Vladimir, but you can go with many different nicknames from these names. For example, if you have the name Alexander in Russia or Ukraine, your nickname is Sasha. If you have the name Vladimir, you can be called Vlad, you could be called Volva. There's just lots of nicks. So this is Vlad and Vera. I want to tell you a story tonight about Vlad and Vera. They're Russian. Don't they look like a nice couple? This is a fact. Remember, tonight I'm telling you the inside story from inside Ukraine. You'll never see this anywhere else. On the left, you have Vlad. On the right, you have Vera. They were married, young married couple. On the left, 3 years ago, Vladimir killed his wife, Vera. And it was not an accidental killing. It was a torturous, horrible death, like something you would see on an episode of Criminal Minds or CSI. A brutal murder of his wife. He was sent to prison for decades. This gentleman on the left, 100%, not only has been released from prison, but he has been fully pardoned. And if I was home, I would show you the document. I have it. Fully pardoned. And he is now in the ADFA region fighting for Russia. This is one story of thousands and thousands and thousands. But I came across this story today, and this is a now story. This is not early in the war. This guy is there right now fighting against Ukraine, fully pardoned. You realize when you're fully pardoned, it is as if you have never committed that crime before. He's clean, and he's there fighting for Russia. He killed his wife. It's a fact. This is the inside story tonight of what's happening in the war. Now, United States says, and I'm going to try to play this video for you guys. I hope it works. If it doesn't, if it lags a little, let it lag. But if it goes sideways, please let me know in the chat. But according to Blinken, the United States has already distributed 96% of the allotted funds, basically 61 billion, for Ukraine, which includes military aid and humanitarian aid. There's only 4% of the allocated funds, US dollars, left, and this is why it is important that new bills be passed. Okay, that's the fact. I'm going to show you Blinken. Remember, the new Speaker of the House and a group there is trying to put legislation out that would put Ukrainian support with a southern border bill in the United States and to separate support for Ukraine and Israel, make them completely separate. The Democrats blocked it. So right now, we have nothing agreed on. There's an impasse. That's where we're at. With that said, a couple of folks have come out and said something that says U.S. Senate Democrats Democrats block Republican bid for aid to Israel and not Ukraine. That's November the 7th. This is what's happening now. I'm going to try to play you Blinken in just a second. But here we have a couple of tweets that came out. First one from Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States. He said, Russia started the war in Ukraine and could end it at any time by withdrawing its forces and stopping its brutal attacks. Until it does, the United States has a clear way forward. Help Ukraine defend itself, support the Ukrainian people, hold Russia accountable. Okay, I don't agree with everything that Antony Blinken says, but with that statement right there, I agree 100%. He's 100, I don't care what his party is, what his affiliation, he's 100% right. Help Ukraine, support the people, hold Russia accountable. Fact. Now, he's referring to money, guys. Money. And I'm going to show you, I hope to be able to play the video. Secretary Janet Yellen. Listen, a lot of stuff she does I don't agree with. But here, I agree with her. I joined at the Secretary of Defense, Secretary Blinken, and Power USA, U.S. aid in a letter urging Congress to fully support the President's request to sustain our military budget to support Ukraine, which plays a critical role in bolstering their military efforts to win this war. Tim Ryder, and I know how you think, Tim Ryder, we have very, very similar thoughts. And in this situation, yes, truth is truth. Now, I'm going to try to play this video for you guys. Please let me know if it's lagging. If it lags, tell me and I'll pop it out. Let's see if it'll roll here.
Still have available for Ukraine from the previous appropriations?
On your first question, I would just say that the reason why the President included border security funding in the supplemental is because he agrees that we need cooperation from Congress to improve our capability at the border. And if they are serious about wanting to help with border needs, then pass the supplemental request that the President submitted. And as for the money that's left, what I can tell you is that roughly of the total funds that have been provided to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, which is in excess of $60 billion, and that's not just security assistance, that's economic and financial assistance, humanitarian assistance. We've gone through about 96% of what's left, and greater than 90% of security assistance, replenishment funds, have been expended now. And the Defense Department is down to about $1.1 billion of replenishment money left as we head into the wintertime. So, as I've said before, the runway is getting shorter, and that's why we need that supplemental request approved.
So there you have it. That's from John Kirby's mouth, but it's the same story. Sorry, I was saying Blinken. It's John Kirby. Listen, we are entering a very, very precarious time for Ukraine and for Israel and internally here in the United States. Mark McLaren, you're right. American companies have made a lot of money. We're low on our stockpiles. That has to be rebuilt. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We've tapped into our strategic oil reserves when we shouldn't have. We're in a very precarious position, and it's just nuts. You tap into, for example, your strategic oil reserves, and next thing you know, we're on the edge of war in the Middle East, in addition to Ukraine. So that's where we're at, and I'm glad I was able to show you guys that video. Now, last couple of things for tonight. Really good news. So we've been talking about some good news, some bad news. This is good news. Ukrainians are happy about this, and I know you have no idea what I'm going to say, but you see the images here. You say, well, the upper right word says taxes. There's never anything good to say about taxes. Well, in this situation, there is. On the bottom left, I have yellow soldiers. On the top, I have planes. You see the yellow and the blue representing Ukraine. So, one of the major complaints of Ukrainian soldiers was that the taxes they were paying on their military pay. For example, if a soldier from Khmelnytsky is fighting in Avdiivka and he gets his monthly salary, of course, everything's electronic, and his taxes are taken out. Those taxes go to his home city. That's how it works over there. Well, now that has changed. Every soldier in the Ukrainian army that is fighting, and doesn't even have to be on the front line, maybe they're at an air base somewhere out west, okay? Their taxes off of their salaries does not now go back to their home city or home region. It now goes straight to military support. How about that for some good news? This has made Ukrainians happy. You're going to pay taxes, right? Okay. So this is good news. Now the Ukrainian soldiers out there, they're fighting, and a part of their income being sent for taxes. And it's not that they don't want to support their home city, but you're not going to have a home city if you don't support the military. So this is really good news, and we're happy about this one. King Raccoon says the war is approximately 20 months old, 623 days, with 905 has been used. That's 45% for 10 months. So 10% is almost in the 3 months approximately. By then, sure, you guys get a bill passed. Not sure about the numbers there, King, but yeah, okay, 95%. Sorry, yeah, got you. Nate, that's really good news there about the taxes. It has made a lot of people, soldiers, very happy. And you may say, well, that's just dumb. Who would even think about that? Listen, when you're a nation that's developing, that's breaking out of that Soviet system and Soviet mentality and breaking free to the West, that's really good news, guys. Real good news. By then, surely you guys can get a bill passed. You know, I would say that yes, by then we can get a bill passed, but let's be very honest, and I'm an American sitting right in the middle of the United States tonight in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I'm not sure, King, because it took us 3 weeks to elect a Speaker of the House. We have elections that concluded yesterday, and I'm not here to talk about. Well, so I think it was DeSade or somebody a few weeks ago. I made this statement, and then you put a message in there and says, "Listen, it's a war. You have to talk about politics." Okay, so on the political side, here in the United States, yesterday we had some major elections happening throughout our nation, and they were happening in states that are typically, historically, kind of conservative. I had a very close friend running for House of Delegates for Virginia. Super unbelievable guy. Well, everyone was expecting really a Republican conservative strong stand with the way the country's going right now, and it didn't happen. The blue wave rolled in Virginia, Kentucky. In fact, just to give you a quick insight, President Trump endorsed the Republican candidate for governor in Kentucky. He got beat, and we're talking about like it was a huge surprise. He got beat by the Democratic candidate. So I would hope that we can pass things, but our country, for those of you that are not from America and you watch us and you watch the politics and you try to understand it, I just try to help you understand it. We're not in, you can't look at America today and you can't look at America today. Let me go back to the big camera here. You just can't look at America today and think it's the same America that you have known from 10, 20, 30 years ago. Right now, we're in a very, very difficult position, and I hope things go okay. And that's my best answer tonight. I hope. Honestly, I really do. I hope. I'm just not sure. Zelensky having to deal with the slow results on the counteroffensive. And yes, we do have good results, but they've been slower than desired, of course. It's logical, guys. But Zelensky rallying the troops, The election commission came out today and says, listen, there's going to be no presidential election during wartime. So this election talk about Zelensky and the president and House, their Duma members, the Rada, I mean, there's going to be no elections, guys. And that's not a dictatorship. This is multiple, the commission on elections, everything. This is not Zelensky in martial law saying, I'm not leaving office. He's trying to do everything he can to help his country win the war. I remind you all, he really is a good man, and he loves Ukraine, and he knows what he's doing, and he's the best representative for Ukraine that there could possibly be. Don Giannolini, GOP needs to start working instead of playing political games. No kingdom divided can stand. USA, great example. It's exactly right. It's I hope we get stuff passed. There's no better answer we can give. And all the other Americans in here that are in the chat, and we have lots of guys from different nations, and I love it being international. It makes us better and stronger. But the Americans that are in here will tell you it's not. We have major issues here in the United States. Major issues. And it will affect Ukraine. It will affect Israel. It will affect Europe. It will affect everything, because we're so divided in the United States. But Zelensky coming out encouraging today, saying, hey, we can still achieve results. And I will tell you guys right now, a little bit of inside information. Ukraine is loaded with drones. Not that they've received from other nations, but that they have manufactured. And when this winter really kicks in, and I'm going to be talking about really late December, January, February, I believe we're going to see Ukraine unload drone warfare like Russia is unloading on them every day. Just be ready. It is November the 8th here in the U.S., November 9th in Europe, and Ukraine. Just get ready. The drones are going to be cooking. And I think part of that, of course, Zelensky knows, but a part of that is the optimism that the strategies are going to change. And I can tell you, it's going to be a lot of stuff coming through the air. Hey there, Peter. Mark McLaren, the only stuff I'm seeing actually gets a chance of passing this week are tied to Israel or Iran. That is correct, as of right now. And, we're moving now into Thursday. Probably nothing going to unfold on Ukraine this week. Finally, guys, and we'll get out of here tonight, Ukraine. Connected to Israel, 1,000,000%. What's happening in Israel that is connected to Ukraine? Very simple. Very simple. Israel is continuing its bombardment of Gaza. And I was talking to some guys today, and guess where they were from? They were from Israel. They live in Haifa. They live in Tel Aviv. They are here for this conference. He said, well, how did they get there? Because they were in Europe traveling and then scheduled to come here, and then the war broke out. They've been on a little tour. Now they're here with us, and then they're heading back to Israel. They're going home to support their nation. Now, they made a very good comment, and they said this. They said, have you seen, how much power from the air that Israel or we have dropped on little Gaza? And the battle's still raging. And the point they were making, our conversation was about the war in Ukraine. That says, until Ukraine gets air superiority, until Ukraine is able to at least get on par in the air with Russia, it's going to be brutally difficult for them. He goes, look at what we're doing to Gaza and our military going in, and slowly, meter by meter, we're having success encircling Gaza City there. He goes, but just, I know you've seen the news. He goes, look how much we've dropped on them. And he goes, I hate, yes, there are civilians dying. Yes. And he goes, I don't like that. We don't want that, but it's very difficult for us. But when Israel goes to war, he goes, we go to war. We're not there to play games. We're not going to send in 1,000 of our elite soldiers and not give them the air support. We're not going to pave the way. And he says until Ukraine gets that type of support, it's going to be difficult for them. And he was so complimentary. Listen, really smart Israeli. And he says, it's just amazing what they're doing to not have the air superiority. Now, with that, you guys probably know this, but the Gaza Strip still rolling. The battles up north on, I call them battles now because the activity on the Lebanese-Israeli border is increasing. Israel is hitting that area much harder now. In addition to that, you guys probably saw this, but if you did not, the United States has officially struck targets in Syria and Iraq with our planes. If you did not know this, 34 different American/coalition bases or locations have been hit by the terrorists over the last couple of weeks. Today, we put the F-35s in the air and they struck targets. Now, it's an escalation, okay? It's an escalation. Additionally, I got this message out of the IDF today, and this connects to Ukraine and to Israel, and this is where we'll close. Here's the deal. The IDF, some of the guys I get messages from, said this today. He goes, listen, you need to realize something militarily. Okay, what do we need to realize militarily? And you guys know the map, so I'll go back to the full screen here. He goes, you need to realize this militarily. The United States of America has moved so much equipment and manpower into the Med and into the Persian Gulf and into the Red Sea. They're not there for a show of force. They are there to unleash, quote, hell on the enemy. And he says, do not be naive. You're going to begin by seeing little strikes, just like the F-35s today. He says, but there's going to come a red line. And this is IDF talking. He goes, there's going to come a red line. And we're getting closer to it day by day by day. And at that point, the United States is going to really unload. And when they do, Iran and Hezbollah and Russia will make a decision. And no, I have no idea where the balloons are coming from. Will make a decision. And they will either stand down or they will engage. And if they engage, we will go to a regional/world war. It will be the moment that America unleashes. It will not be us unleashing. They know we're not going to stop. We are going to eliminate Hamas off this planet, including all their agents, all their proxies, all their leaders. We don't care if they're in Doha or they're in New York. We're going to get them all. The world knows it. That's the way it is. But when America starts unleashing, and he goes, I feel there's a good possibility of it, we will come to the moment in time that it will be Hezbollah and Iran and Russia and North Korea. They either go or they don't. And at that point, it will also affect the war in Ukraine. So I thought it was brilliant commentary. Of course, he's there. He's there. He knows. And I think it's accurate. I did see King Raccoon, one of the better statements of tonight. You even got a like there from Rick Berry. I think I can show this. Look. Oh. Okay. Oh. I told you guys on Monday night, I don't put trash out. And I was so embarrassed and so angry. I'm even putting comments up tonight from a hotel in Oklahoma. You guys need to understand, you don't get to call this. If Russia looks like it's going to win, Poland and the Baltics will go. And if they do, so does the rest of Europe. That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. So this is where we're at, guys. I thank you for being here. Consider yourself fully updated. I will check really quick before we get out of here. We'll be back Friday night, if not before. U.S. hit Syria, and there were, I'm getting it right now, Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Some of their groups were there, so pay attention. The UN Human Rights Council is the UN Human Rights Council includes nations of Cuba, Qatar, China, Sudan, Eritrea, Algeria, Somalia, Vietnam, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, and Bangladesh. Okay. Let's see. U.S. just attacked Deir ez-Zor in Syria. U.S. now has been hit over 50 times. U.S. U.S. locations and proxies. And that gets us up to the minute. So that's Israel, Ukraine, we're up to the minute as well. So thank you guys for being here. Be blessed. And we'll see you on Friday night, if not before. Make sure you have the notifications on. And I think overall, if you guys don't mind popping me a message in there, I think overall the stream was fairly smooth. I can even, look, I can even do that. Don't mess with me. It makes me mad when things don't work right. You guys be blessed, and we'll see. The UK is en route to a lot of problems this week, down to the protest march. Remember, things are getting wild. Yes, things are getting wild, and we'll see where we go from here. You guys be blessed. We'll see you on Friday night, Saturday morning for you guys over there, if not